Okay, I think I'm going to start with the first part of the agenda, which is old business. We just have a couple of things that I want to mention before we get rolling with the main part of the meeting. First of all, I just want to note for the record that the last time we got together, we had completed and submitted the guidelines for the neighborhood conservation district to the Historic Preservation Commission for approval. They asked for some revisions, and we came back and brought them some revisions, and the guidelines passed officially on Thursday. So we now have our guidelines, and as soon as I get a PDF version, I will upload it to the website so that anybody who wants to see it can get it. Second announcement. Comments on that? Okay, second announcement on that. I had a note today from the Banneker Center. For those of you who haven't been to our meetings before, we normally hold neighborhood association meetings at the Banneker Center in the kitchen there. They are partially reopening. And for our December meeting, if we choose to take them up on this, we actually could meet in person with the following stipulation. If we use the kitchen, it has a maximum capacity of 5 people. So that's probably not going to be practical. The third floor space can accommodate up to 15. And 15 people would be a normal neighborhood association meeting. Tonight, I think we're going to have probably considerably more than that number, given the topic at hand. But it's something to think about, as if we decide to have our regular meeting at the Banneker Center, we could have it in that upper floor.
Hey, Peter, if you have a in-person meeting, will you also have a Zoom link?
We might consider some way of doing that. We don't have technically, I couldn't tell you how we would accomplish that.
We'd have to know if we could get to Wi-Fi from Banneker, Wi-Fi or some internet connection. I mean, we could put it on a laptop, but that's still one person's laptop, so I don't know how effective that would be.
Yeah, we would need not only Wi-Fi, but we need a camera of some kind.
Right. Yeah, other than a laptop camera is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually we are going to go back to normal. That will mean face-to-face meetings without Zoom. So I don't know whether that's going to be practical for December, but the idea is out there.
Peter, I met Corey. She's like the Banneker Center director. Am I getting her name right? Corey? Okay, cool. I met her at the BLM mural thing. Maybe if we decide not to have our meeting there, because I still like kind of prefer the Zoom just with the with COVID and everything, but maybe we can support them in a different way. So like if they wanted our, like the money that we would pay, if we paid them money or something else, maybe we can also do something if we don't meet them there. Because I didn't realize all they did, but I'm happy to support any effort that, you know, they might need. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
We don't pay,
Sorry, somebody else?
we don't pay them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be unpaid.
Threw it all over something.
Hey, Natalia, as long as you're speaking, why don't you talk about the Monroe County United Ministries program that you did the collection for?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, I wanted to just say thank you for everybody's generosity. Once again, the Near West Side was one of the top neighborhoods. I'm a little competitive, so I like to see where we stacked up with everybody else. But they haven't gotten me the final numbers yet. I think just with the two-day donation drive, we donated over 350 pounds of donations. And that's not including Tom's financial donation or anything. They were just weighing whatever we contributed. So I think we haven't gotten the final numbers yet, but I was the third pickup of the day, and we beat a church, and we beat another like a neighborhood over by going towards the stand. It wasn't the stands, but it was like on the east side, kind of going in that direction. But I'm just so excited and so thankful that we were able to support them again. And thank you to Peter for bringing Macam to our attention. A couple months ago, that they came to present at our neighborhood association meeting. So they were just overjoyed with our efforts this year. So that's because of everybody here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, the generosity of this neighborhood is really kind of inspiring. One last item before we get to Jackie. We have been, as a neighborhood association, we have been functioning for about 4 months now, short a member of our executive team. We don't have a secretary. I have been serving both functions as president and secretary. I could use a break, and we really need to have a secretary. So I would like to throw it out there to see if there are any volunteers for that. You don't have to speak up now, but I just wanted to say we are down a member of our team. So if you feel like making that contribution, it basically involves handling the correspondence and the minutes of these meetings. Please let me know. It's kind of important. Okay, I'm going to dispense with the treasurer's report because I think it's probably going to be the same story as the last 3 months in a row. We have basically the same amount of money that we had in the account that we have had. And I want to jump directly to our main speaker of the evening, who is Jackie Scanlon. I'll let Jackie introduce herself, but she is a member of the Planning and Transportation staff for the city. And she's taken the lead on a series of public outreach sessions on the latest proposal to amend the UDO and change the zoning map, substantially upzoning a lot of areas, including ours. So this is your opportunity to find out basically what that proposal is about, ask your questions. And I'm going to open the floor. What I'm going to do is, because we have a few more people than we normally do, I'm going to ask everybody to mute their microphones until they are recognized, and then unmute to ask your question. I'm just trying to keep the echoing and the noise down. But this is your opportunity to ask questions directly. Jackie, I just want to set the scene a little bit. I know that you were on in those meetings last year when we were debating the UDO. It isn't news to you that many of the harshest critics in the city of that proposal to enable plexes in these areas came from the near west side. I'll let you know in advance, and there's probably no surprise, this could be a tough room. But I think that's, again, not going to come as a surprise to you. I think you're probably well prepared for that. And before we begin, I want to make sure that I recognize out loud, and I think I speak for everybody in the room, that we understand that what Jackie does is a profession. And Jackie, we know that you trained for this in ways that most of us have never trained, and we respect that. And I just want you to know that we do understand and appreciate your expertise going into this. So you may want to begin with a brief summary, and then I'll open it up to questions.
Sure. Okay, so some of you know who I am, Karen Duffy. I recently went through one of our approval processes for a hearing officer. I know some of you, a couple of you from other places. I am the development services manager for the city of Bloomington. So if you apply to do something at your house that requires a building permit, or all the way up to when people build new, large apartment complexes, that all of those things go through my division. And my division is the one that proposes text amendments and works with the UDO most closely. we are at the tail end of a long process that started many moons ago with the update of the comprehensive plan. So that was done. And then the update to the comprehensive plan is laying out the groundwork. It's called a long range plan, and it's laying out the groundwork so that then the regulations, the Unified Development Ordinance, can then be updated to meet the goals of the comprehensive plan. So the Unified Development Ordinance update was undertaken last year. And actually, we were working on it longer than that. Started in 2018 and then was approved by council and went into effect this April. That process, that was getting us almost to the end, and we still have to update the map. So what we did, we worked with consultant Clarion Associates out of Denver and Ohio, and they recommended that we bring forward the text amendments first, so rewriting the text, which we did, and that then we would come back for the map to map the areas. So map the new districts, change lines for existing districts where appropriate. That's the process we're in now. We have also chosen to undertake the Plex discussion again because we think it's a valuable discussion to be had. Having it in the context of the entire text amendment, I think didn't afford it enough time for us to be able to hear from a wider swath of the community and maybe be able to work with the elected officials and more people in the community to find a more palatable way to include it in more areas of the city than we otherwise would have proposed on our own. So that is why it's coming back. So that's why I'm here. I'm happy to talk about anything, but I'm sure that's all we're going to be talking about, which is fine. Basically, we wanted to offer staff, myself, and then some of my staff people have gone to some neighborhood association meetings to answer questions. So there have been a series of public meetings. The last one was tonight, actually, it just ended at 7 on the different topics. There were 2 related to R4 and Plex. So there are areas in your neighborhood that are proposed to be rezoned to R4. That is a slightly smaller district than R3, which is what you are currently. If you know anything about the old code, R3 is RC in the conversion map. So when the text was updated, we did a conversion map, which basically just changed the names of the districts. And so you were RC and now you are R3. Some areas on the west side, again, are proposed to be changed to R4. So that is of importance because while we are proposing plexes in all of the primarily single family districts, the most intense plexes are proposed for R4 currently. So we do want to say, just because it's a confusing process, and I think you probably already know this because you're fairly engaged compared to some, of other residents we have in town. This is just a draft. So nothing has changed. We're throwing out a set of ideas. We are meeting with different stakeholder groups like this. And then we will propose a draft to Plan Commission in January. And through a series, then we will have public hearings where hopefully members of the public will attend and make comment. Plan Commission will very likely amend that draft that we take to them, and then that draft will go to council. Council will not be able to change the map. So they will have to either approve what comes out of Plan Commission or deny it. And then we would have to start over but they can change the text and make recommendations to change that, that then Plan Commission would have to recertify, but that is doable. So Peter, did you want me to say anything more specific?
No, I think I'm anxious to get to questions because I'm
Okay.
sure that this crowd has a lot of them. And so what I would like you to do is please, as I say, except for you, Jackie, keep your microphones muted until I recognize you, and I will do that visually. Just raise your hand, and I will recognize people as I see them. And I think I would like to. I don't see any hands up yet, so
Tom's got his hand up.
Hey, Tom. Please unmute. There you go.
And now that you said that, then I couldn't get off of mute fast enough. Hi, I'm Tom Payne, live
Hi.
on West 6th. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When I look at what's being proposed and I look at the potential economics of what's being proposed, really the thing that stands out to me the most is that we have this sort of weird bedfellows situation, if I can call it that, between the city and the Todd Young, Trey Hollingsworth group that is very much in back of this same sort of thing. I don't believe for a second that Todd Young and Trey Hollingsworth are strident advocates of social justice or green or anything along those lines. You know, like journalism 101, you learn to follow the money. And to me, this strikes me as something that people who are interested in making money on development and in REIT investment and things like that would be very interested in, because it lets them monetize what right now are single family homes that may not end up being single family homes if developers can come in and do this. So I guess my first question is, could you react to that? And then my second question is, how do the economics work in such a way that we think that if a home has to be torn down and then a plex built in its place, is it reasonable to think that even a fourplex could end up being rented affordably? What part of the market dynamics make that possible when it's not what's happening throughout the rest of the city today? So I'm going to shut off my sound again, Peter, but I wanted to put those out there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, we have gotten some very similar questions, some from Peter along these lines as well. It's hard to react. It's hard to react to the, Todd Young, Trey Hollingsworth comparisons. I mean, these policies that we are proposing are in line with the policies proposed by the president-elect. And I don't think we would say that those are policies that Todd Young would get behind, but I don't know very much about Todd Young, to be honest. So maybe, but reducing regulation so that more people have opportunity to live in desirable places is a progressive policy, and it's one that is going to be pursued nationally under the next administration, and is something that we are pursuing locally, not because of that, but in line with that. My next, I guess, response would be, so you're talking about monetizing single family residences. They are already monetized here. They may stay single family, but if they are rented, they are already being purchased way above what would otherwise probably be appropriate or more in line with if they were all single family and we weren't in a university town and they weren't being able to be purchased by larger entities that can, for example, buy out first-time home buyers, or outbid first-time home buyers. So that's already happening. We have tried to make it clear, but we'll do a better job, I hope, that no, we don't think that buying a house in the near West Side or anywhere and tearing it down and building a fourplex is going to provide affordable housing. We think that some people will use plex regulations to, for example, remodel the houses that they have to put in a second unit on the back or in the basement, and then they may rent that unit to someone for less than that person is able to rent a single family house in the neighborhood. They may rent it to their niece who's going to IU for less than she would be able to find a unit somewhere else in town. That is affordable housing. That is cheaper housing than what is typically available.
Hey, Jackie, can I stop you for a second? What you just cited there, that's already allowed. It's called an ADU. And
Yes.
the only requirement is that the owner has to live in one of the units. So how does
That's not the only requirement. There are size restrictions as well that would not apply. Additionally, for example, they could sell the second unit, which in an ADU you can't do. So they could condoize their property, and now we could be having 2 opportunities for home ownership on one lot as opposed to 1. I think more to back to Tom's question. So we acknowledge though, and we had a couple of local developers. I'm not sure how much everyone went to all the meetings last time. Come to the meetings and say, you don't have, I'm a developer and I would not buy a property and tear it down and build a duplex. That just doesn't, I'm not going to do that. It just kind of doesn't make sense. We had a local developer offer to give a presentation to anyone in the public who wanted to come to discuss that. We don't want to mandate plexes. We just want them to be an option. And I do think we have acknowledged exactly what you're saying, Tom, that all those units are not going to be affordable. But if we can increase the number of units in town through more than one regulatory change, so including the MS zoning districts, including the ADUs, making cottage development an option, making plexes an option, then we think we can have an overall net effect of lowering the housing costs in the city. So it may not be that the 4 units that go up in your neighborhood would be considered affordable. But if we can get, if we can reach a point where enough units are being built across town that all units can be brought down, that would be the goal.
Okay, Robert Harmon, you're up.
So the question I have for you is, well, before I ask a question. So last year, the neighborhood association went through this long process and a decision was made, okay? And the city agreed to it. So now you want to change the game, okay? So in whose interest is the city doing that?
Is that your only question?
No.
Oh, okay. I can answer that. Sorry, I just didn't want to cut you off if you were going to keep. Yes. So, I mean, our goal is in the interest for the city, right?
Okay,
So,
wait,
yeah.
okay, no, that's not exactly right, is it?
Well, no, I mean, I know what my goals are and I helped write it. So yes, that is right. But if it doesn't seem that way, then yes, I understand that there are reasons to be nervous about it.
I'm not being nervous. Here's what I'm trying to understand, okay? A decision was made a year ago, okay, for this neighborhood. And then there's an election last year, November, okay? So some new council members get involved and you guys decide, and not you personally, but John Hamilton, he decides that it's in his interest, okay? So you're just a spokesperson, unfortunately. But it's John Hamilton who has decided that he doesn't give a damn what our neighborhood has decided, you know? And he wants to get a retry, you know? It's like, it's like a game of soccer. You know, the referee says, oh no, the game doesn't look like this. We're gonna change the game. That's basically what you guys are doing. And you just wanna shove this damn thing into our neighborhood. You know, and I understand you're saying, well, what we wanna do is we wanna have increased density in the city, okay? There's lots of other neighborhoods, you know, but you can't do it there. So you're taking the lazy option, okay? If you, there's lots of places, you know, the city's trying to build an extended convention center. There's a huge amount of space there, you know. We don't need another damn convention center, but that's neither here, well, it is here or there, you know. But I mean, I get so angry. I get so angry that you guys have decided, Hamilton has decided, you know, that he wants to get another try. You know, the game was played last year, you know, we won, and then you want to restart the game again.
I think we should give Jackie a chance to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. We hear that a lot. I understand the concern. I mean, it's legislation. We change it all the time. You know, when we brought ADUs forward last year, we had just brought them forward in 2018. You know, 2 years in a row, they changed quite a bit.
It's BS. You guys just don't listen. You just don't listen.
I don't know how to, yeah. I mean, I understand that, yeah. I'm sorry that you feel
I
that
don't
way. I mean,
think
here,
you-
this
I
is
don't
a
think-
democratic process, right? So, I mean, you'll come to the meetings, you'll come to Plan Commission, you'll come to council, you'll tell them why you don't like it, and they'll make a decision.
There were
we-
meetings,
We already
numerous
did that.
meetings last year, okay? And a decision was
Yes.
made and you guys have decided that you didn't like the outcome, okay? And I'll stop talking now.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, we are, yeah, I mean, we own that. We are trying again. We thought that with more, we think that with more time, we may be able to come to a resolution, and maybe we won't.
Yeah,
But
and then
that's
you'll
what
try
we're trying.
again.
That's what we're trying.
Okay, John Schrader.
Hi, everybody. I'm not familiar with everything that's going along, but thank you for joining us to help answer some of our questions.
Thanks.
And I'll try to be really succinct here. My one question I have is how many plexes per block?
There is not a maximum currently in the current draft.
So where I live, I have a house that's empty. I have a house that's falling down on the other side of me, and I have a house that's a rental. So in theory, I could have 4 or 3 fourplexes on each side of me. Is that correct?
If they could meet the requirements, yes.
Okay. So then what does that do to the value of my home? The consultants that you hired, have they said anything as how having a fourplex, whether it's on one side of me, 2 sides of me, whatever, how does that affect the value of my home?
Adding property that is more valuable than your property will increase your property value is what we've been, not with the consultants, but we've been talking to, working with the assessor. I don't know if you were able to attend some of the other meetings, but.
I'm sorry, I haven't been able to send any of the
Okay,
meetings.
so then I'll just do a little brief. Basically, so what happens now, which I don't know how much this happens in your neighborhood, but it happens like, for example, in the Green Acres area, in some of the neighborhoods to the south, is that when a house goes up for sale and a rental company buys it, and they're able to buy it at a premium, as that keeps happening, then the assessor is forced to revalue the neighborhood, which increases everyone's taxes.
Sure.
That is basically like the simple way she tried to explain it to me. And we will be we're working with her more on how this will affect each area.
I really want to understand. I really would like to have somebody respond to that.
Yes.
Because it is I would like you to or someone to tell me how having a fourplex on potentially all 3 sides of me can increase the value of my home, even though I'm only a single family home, unless I sell to a developer that's going to tear down my house. My house, I have completely restored. I live on 4th Street. I live actually in Prospect Hill. And I have completely redone my home. I have taken off all the siding, all the windows. I don't know how that's going to benefit me. I don't see the value of my home increasing when it's a single family and I potentially could have 3 fourplexes, duplexes, triplexes around me. So that's what I would really like to get an answer to that. And then I don't know where to find that answer. If you could find that out for us, I think that would be a benefit to me.
Yep.
My other question is, and it's probably been asked before, is how is parking addressed?
So in the current regulations, this is actually already in code. So this is not a proposed change, but in the current plexes regulations, there are a certain number of parking spaces required per unit. And I believe what council determined, and I can double check this, is half a space. So if you have a duplex, you have to have 1 on site, where a single family isn't required to have on-site parking, but the duplexes would be required to provide some on-site parking.
So
Okay.
a fourplex would require 2 parking spaces on site.
Say that again, I'm so sorry.
I said a fourplex would require
Yes.
2 parking spaces on
I
site.
believe so, yes, and I can double check that.
So
Just a quick question, Jackie. Does that seem realistic to you?
What do you mean?
2 parking spaces for what could be 12 people?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a discussion of who can use public spaces, right? So most of these areas also have on-street parking, and renters, if these are renters, which most people think that they would be, right? They bring less parking to the neighborhoods than the homeowners do, typically. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. As you know from following along, just parking in general, the council has very much leaned toward much lower numbers for required parking across the spectrum.
Okay, this is one
So
of
I
the,
can double check that, Peter, and make sure that that's
Peter,
permanent.
Peter, I have just 3 more questions,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'll be quiet.
okay.
I'll be quiet. So how big, like, is there a lot size minimum for a duplex, triplex, fourplex?
It's the same as for a single family.
So, okay. Then my next question is, what happens, like, I live in Prospect Hill. I'm in a historic district. Does that even matter anymore?
Yes, very much so.
So I
None of
can't
those
have,
regulations change.
so I can't have a fourplex in my house, next to my house then?
You can have a fourplex if they can do it in a way that the Historic Preservation Commission will approve.
Okay. And then my final question is, I went to IU. I lived in a fraternity, and then we took over a fourplex that was over by the, what's the Mathers Museum behind the Sigma Chi house?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the Mathers Museum. This is what I'm really concerned about, is there being 12 people can live in a fourplex and they're all from a fraternity. How do you address that? Because if we're talking affordable housing, every college student's looking for affordable housing. So how does that,
Yeah,
how do we
that's a
prevent
separate-
that? I don't want that in my home. You know, I've chosen to live here in Prospect Hill. I've chosen to raise my son here when the school is horrible, you know, and now I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm trying to help turn around this neighborhood, me thinking that it was a single family neighborhood. I would not have spent the money on my home that I did had I known that something like this could potentially happen, because I wouldn't have chosen to live here. And I think everybody on this screen that you're seeing now has the same feeling that I do. This is the closest, like, our neighborhoods, the near West Side and Prospect Hill are the closest neighborhoods to downtown that aren't overrun with students. And that's what I want to preserve.
Sure.
We are the ones that aren't here for just 4 years, pumping money into the economy. We walk downtown every day. We're going to be here for 20 years. So I just don't understand how this is helping us out as neighbors having the fourplexes. It seems like it's all skewed to helping affordable housing, which I'm for, but then it's also, there's a bunch of people that are going to make a lot of money. So I don't, these developers are going to make money. So that's why I'm asking, how does it help me in the value of my home? How does it help me that I'm not going to have to struggle to find a place to park? How does it help me that I'm not going to have to worry about some drunk kid knocking on my door thinking it's his home to try to get into my house? So these are my concerns,
Sure.
and I don't know how they're even being addressed. It doesn't seem very fair to us at all. We live here. We've been paying property tax a lot longer than any developer has. So where's our say in it? And how do I have more say in this, I guess is what I'm asking. How can I help change your mind?
Yeah. Okay, these are great questions. Two things. I have a question for you. Obviously a fourplex, 12. I understand what you're saying about the fraternity. Do you have the same type of feeling about like a smaller unit, like a tri or a duplex?
Well, I've got a
Well, I mean, there's duplexes all over, right? No, but I'm like really, I'm really asking. Yeah.
I've got one next to me right now, but I'm worried about a fourplex that can tower over my house, take away my sunlight. You know, those are the things I'm worried about. And then I get home from work and it's like I'm living back in San Francisco again. Takes me a half an hour to drive around the block to figure out where I can park my car.
Yeah. So, couple things. The development standards for the plexes are the same and more restrictive than for a house. So if someone wanted to buy the lot next to you, because you said it's like dilapidated or whatever, and build a tall single family that, you know, just houses 2 or 3 people, they could do that. That could happen. So the plexes aren't going to allow for bigger buildings than what are already allowed. These are all good comments. These are all things that we've heard. The way for you to be involved is what you're doing. This is informational, but then stay on track when it comes out, when the meetings are in January, and come to those meetings, contact your council person, those types of things. That's how you make your voice heard. We do want to hear your input. I'm asking you about the scale of plexes because one of the reasons we brought it back was to see if there is a way to find a middle. And there might not be, but we are wondering if people, especially those most vehemently opposed, what we most hear from them are comments about fourplexes and you know,
Parking.
12 beds and stuff like that. And
Yep.
so
Okay.
that's why I'm saying, wondering if that is something that anyone here in this group is open to, or if we're just saying flexes, no flexes.
Okay. So my final question: How do these proposals benefit our neighborhood?
Right. So the proposals benefit the community as a whole, and they allow for opportunity for people.
How does it benefit everybody on this screen?
I'm sorry, you're going so quiet.
Yeah, John, you're kind of fading out. Actually, I would like to move on to some other people
sorry,
who have
Peter.
questions because we're running out of time.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
I want to recognize Bill Ballas, but before we get to that, I don't want to breeze by the fact that in an R4 zone, we've been talking about triplexes and quads. In an R4 zone, there's a conditional use that goes up to an 8plex.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Bill.
And that's not, yeah, that's not a text proposal. That's already in the code. So that is a mapping issue, just so you know, for when we're moving down the line. Sorry, Bill.
I've got a comment and 3 questions. First of all, Robert, mentioned that you're a spokesperson, and I want to congratulate you. You are a very good spokesperson. You are doing an excellent job of representing the mayor's point of view on this. Now, I have 3 questions. Conditional use versus by right. We can have in this zone, which incidentally, except for the Kirkwood corridor, this entire neighborhood is in your proposed R4 zone. We have by right triplexes and conditional use fourplexes, but it looks to me like fourplexes are the same as by right, except that you have to go to a hearing, and the hearing has to approve it. Am I not correct on that?
That is correct. In a way, for conditional use, you can add any conditions that you want to limit that use. So if there are specific conditions related to the fourplexes, then the Board of Zoning Appeals would weigh those, in which they wouldn't, obviously, in a by right situation.
Those conditions, I am quite sure, although I haven't spent a lot of time researching this, that you could not put a condition that you can't have fraternity members live there, or that you require people to have no more than 2 cars. I'm pretty sure that is not something that city can impose.
I agree with that.
Now, I have a question about affordable housing in R4. In your presentation an hour ago, you mentioned that affordable housing incentives, according to the new text of the amendments that are being proposed, that affordable housing incentives could be authorized in R4. Now, in the past, affordable housing incentives have applied to significant sized developments. That means large apartment complexes or buildings, large residential single-family developments that include large areas. However, R4 doesn't include those kind of spaces. So it appears to me that a developer could come in with a single or aggregated lot and say, I'm going to give X amount of dollars to the affordable housing fund if you will let me put 18 units and 5 stories in. That's a little extreme, I realize, but not impossible. Can you address that?
Yes, sorry. Hold on, I'm looking for. I think that's a great question. I think it's confusing because you're right, and most of the affordable housing incentives we've done in the past have been related to large projects. But here in the code currently, in your zoning district now, so if you went to R4, this would not actually be a change for you all. If the plexes were allowed, excuse me, sorry, then actually, sorry, it does apply to single family in your zoning district now. The incentives that you can get in the primarily single family districts are those of reduced lot area. If you were creating a new lot, which in your area would be incredibly unlikely, reduced lot width, again, that's for subdivision. It's incredibly unlikely that would apply to you. Side building setbacks may be reduced to 5 feet. That's going to be, I'm pretty sure, in line with your setback requirements, and a reduced rear yard setback to 15. The incentives for your district do not involve a financial contribution. So it would have to be units provided on site would have to be what they would be doing. So it is unlikely, I think, that would happen. It is an option for if there are larger or aggregated lots, but I can get more detail about that. It's kind of complicated, but write that out. But I do want to say, and that's all in the code right now. So what we are trying to do with the clarifying correction, for those of you who weren't there tonight, is R1, R2, and R3 are already listed to have these bulk incentives, and we are proposing to add R4 so that if it is mapped, that those same incentives will apply there as well. But they're not the type of, it's not the type of large scale, I don't think, incentives that you're thinking of from other areas, but we can put together a better description than I'm giving now in writing for you to have.
Okay, I want to recognize Abe Morris and Beth Ellis.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
We only have like 17 minutes left.
Yeah, we are.
I can come back too.
And this is in regard to something that you've talked about in your previous things. Where did you find the formula for determining what areas are going to be in R4?
We created it.
Right, that's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Abe.
Jackie, just so I understand your perspective of what you've witnessed as far as Bloomington development goes. How long have you lived in Bloomington?
20 years.
20 years.
Oh,
okay.
That's not true. I'd say I lived in Chicago for 3.
Okay. Well, so you more or less have a couple decades of
I've lived in 4 of these lovely neighborhoods in my time
Gotcha.
here, yeah.
Well, then you've witnessed a lot of the infill in downtown. Lots of new apartment buildings going in. You know, we've definitely, downtown's changed a lot in that time.
Yeah.
So during that time, we've had literally hundreds of new units be developed in Bloomington. And what I'm hearing is that the reason for the city wants this change is that they want to increase affordable housing. And that what you said at the beginning of the meeting was that there aren't really any guarantees that this change in zoning will make housing more affordable, but that the overall increase of units will make things more affordable. Just literally by the sheer size of more units decreases prices. Is that correct?
We think that this on its own won't do that, but that is part of a package that, yes, that is the goal.
So we've already seen a large infill in downtown. And have you seen prices go down?
Right, because it's not enough. No. That's why.
Well, that is a huge increase, probably more than what you would see from this change in this neighborhood as far as number of units increased in Bloomington.
Oh yes, for
but
sure,
what I'm
but
saying
not
is
with the
that
other changes.
We've had hundreds of new units go into downtown Bloomington. Has the trend been one that supports your notion that increasing the number of units overall in Bloomington will decrease home prices?
I understand what you're saying and where you're going, but our vacancy rate is so low that no, they haven't impacted because we haven't built enough. There aren't enough yet. And we don't want them all to be in your neighborhood. I don't know, again, it's hard to know what everyone's baseline is, but in the multi-use student housing district that we're proposing near the campus will simplify the development process there, and allow for larger student housing projects to be built there. And we think that in conjunction that will pull students away in a way that did happen, I think, briefly from the neighborhoods. I know you say you guys don't have as many renters, student renters, briefly pulled students from the neighborhoods when the downtown developments start. The community said, whoa, we don't like these, stop. So we stopped building them as many immediately around downtown. And so what we have proposed is the mixed use student, which we think in conjunction with some of these other changes could have the effect that we are after. It will be something we will have to track. When we proposed ADUs, we tracked those very closely, made reports to council. We would be expecting to do the same thing.
How many units would be enough?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the tipping point is.
That should be an easy economic model for the city to do. If they actually think that that way it would work, that you could, that seems like pretty easy math.
Well, there's a proposal. There is a number of units that was, I don't know if you've read the housing study, included per year in the housing study, but I don't think it specifically addressed the deficit that we're already at. And it was around 500 a year, which seems to not be addressing our deficit currently.
The housing study says 250 units a year. And the housing study also says that we have 15 years of growth before we ever have to touch the core neighborhoods. There's plenty of space.
Yes, there is space out, and we are also trying to follow some obvious sustainability guidelines where developing in compact areas is better. It does all the things that you like about how proximate you are to the downtown are also probably good for the environment, because you can walk there and work there and not have to drive as much and use bikes more often. We're trying to increase those opportunities for other people as well.
Okay, apologies to the people who've been waiting, but I got to move this along. Beth Ellis.
So I have more of a process question. My understanding is that in the near west side, that like we have 2 vacant lots next to our house. If somebody wanted to buy one of those and build something, it would have to go through HPC and it would have to meet those stringent guidelines, so that the guy who was talking earlier from Prospect Hill about the towering place over his house, HPC would be able to say no to that.
Correct. So there are zoning regulations. We have height maximums and architectural requirements. And then there are historic preservation regulations that also have similar architectural requirements. And you have to meet both. And typically theirs are more stringent. So yes, in your neighborhoods, if you are a conservation district, if he lives in Prospect Hill, the BHPC would definitely have to approve anything to be rebuilt, or in most cases, additions, and also all demolitions.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bob Murray, was your hand up? Bob? Nope. Okay, Natalia Galvan.
Hey, I just had a really quick question. I was at Sue Scambolari's constituent Zoom a couple weeks ago, and I asked her, but I'm like, you probably would know better. I just went to one of the meetings, the planning meetings, and transparently, I missed some of it. And I think that one of our members asked this question, but why is McDowell zoned in R3?
Because of the way that R4 was determined. So R4 was based on the lot sizes of parcels that are under R3. So for example, if you live on a lot that is under the lot size of R3 and you want to put sunroom on the back of your house, and you can't, so often we find that those lots can't meet the development standards, and then they have to get variances. Or if you wanted to do an ADU, you can't, because you have to meet minimum lot size. So that's how we started. We identified those, and then we buffered them to identify clusters of R4 areas, and that's how we got to the proposed R4 zoning districts. So you can then make the leap that they didn't have them in McDowell. Those parcels are slightly larger than the ones in your area.
Jackie, the parcels in McDowell Gardens are generally smaller than the ones in our area.
I mean, I don't like, you can, that's fine, but you can look on the map, and we identified all of the parcels that do not meet the minimum lot size for R3, and that's how the areas were chosen. If they had clusters of parcels around them that also didn't meet them, then they were identified and mapped.
Okay, did I see another hand?
Alan has his hand up.
Okay, we'll go with Alan. You have to unmute, Alan. Alan, there we go.
There he is.
As I have to point out that densification is going on in Bloomington, has been going on since I lived here for 5 years. It was going on before. So processes are in place. I don't understand why the city won't rest until they get rid of these beautiful neighborhoods that exist within walking distance of downtown. It seems like the motivation there is to turn everything around downtown into like Adams Crossing or something. And it just infuriates me that you keep coming back with the same stuff. And that's my comment.
Do you want me to reply, Peter?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if we were running out of time. Okay. I think it's unfortunate that people feel that way about it. I understand that these are your investments, these are your homes. You've lived here for a long time, or 5 years, whatever. You're invested in these areas. We are not trying to strip what is special about them. We're trying to make it open to more people. Is the quad or the multifamily too much for these areas? It might be. We're asking, and you're saying it's too much. Okay, maybe it is. Is there a middle ground? We are looking to see if, like Mr. Schroeder said, oh, I actually already live next to a duplex. Right, they're already there. There are already multifamily units in Elm Heights with more than 8 units. They're already there. They were allowed, they were common. Then single family zoning was put into place and they were stopped. And we are trying to reintroduce them so that more people, for all the reasons you said, being able to walk downtown, being close, that's the idea. So yes, I get that you don't agree with that. And that's totally, you're right. It's just my job to try to explain it. You don't have to agree, of course. And we understand that a lot of people won't. We also get a lot of people who want more than what we're proposing, to be honest. And they might not come to these meetings because they'd be the only one here, maybe. We are receiving those even from people in your very neighborhood. We are trying to do what we think is best to help improve the housing situation, to address other goals that we've talked about, such as sustainability and equity. And we think that there is a middle ground for the addition of plexes across town to be found. And that's what we're trying to do.
I don't see any other hands. Yes, there's a hand up.
Bob's back up.
Yeah. You need to unmute. There you go.
Yes, hi, I'm Barbara Moss, and my husband's Bob Meadows. And we have a house at 812 West 8th Street that we've been working on for about 5 years. And we currently live in Hoosier Acres, and our hope has been to move into that house, to downsize and to live there for the next 20 years. And frankly, it's not really a question, just letting you know, Jackie, that this kind of thing is so disturbing that we truly do believe that what you're proposing is going to destroy the neighborhood. And you might say that, oh, it's going to be all over, all the housing stock all over Bloomington will be affected, but we know that isn't true. We know, because we live in Hoosier Acres, if you try to do that here and you put one fourplex The gentleman originally, maybe it was John Schroeder, said that he's surrounded by lots and by or homes that are falling down, and what's going to happen to his property. Well, it isn't just that one property that's right surrounding you. You do 2 of these in a neighborhood, and I don't really care, even if you have a good block, the whole neighborhood is going to be affected by it, and people will leave. The very people who are the anchors of this neighborhood, and I'm not even including us. I mean, we hope to be, but frankly, we are very seriously considering not coming to the neighborhood now as a result. And there are other people in this neighborhood who you want to have, good citizens who can be, real anchors, who will leave. And you can't, you have to look, you can't lose the forest for the trees. And this is I'm afraid of, the thinking here and the politics that are involved in it are very devastating and harmful to a core neighborhood and several core neighborhoods. And you're not going to be able to do this in a place like Hoosier Acres or Hyde Park or other places, because a developer can't purchase those properties. Even if they're expensive here on a per foot basis, more than they were, certainly, in the last 5 years, nobody's going to buy a $500,000 house and tear it down and put a quadruplex or eightplex or whatever in one of these other neighborhoods. They're going to do it in these small neighborhoods. So we really are at tremendous risk in a way, much more so than you can say it's everybody, it's all the neighborhoods, but we know it's really targeting these small neighborhoods, and that's just not fair.
Okay. I mean, yes, we understand that you feel that way. We do think they can be done everywhere. The map draft may change. Those areas could be zoned for higher density and subdivided. That's all. It's kind of still on the table. I mean, we wanted to put out an idea and see if people had. We understand that it's frustrating. We're trying to get to the next step. Is there something else? What is it exactly that you don't like? Are you afraid that the bulk's going to be too big? Because Beth has pointed out correctly that is still going to be regulated by BHBC in the exact same way it's regulated right now. Or is it that you're worried about parking? That's something we can probably address. Is it just that you don't want more students in the neighborhood? That is something we could maybe regulate for if we can limit the number of people per unit. So we're just trying to, see if.
Why don't you just leave it alone so that we don't have to nickel and dime all of this stuff?
Yes.
$900,000 home was sold just down my block here in Hoosier Acres. Is any developer going to buy that and tear it down and put in, 4 or 8 units? No. But will somebody come in and buy a lot in the near west side for $100,000, $150,000, whatever? Maybe they will, if they can really squeeze out of it. And because you're not going to have rents that are affordable. You're going to have, $2,000, $3,000 rents eventually there. Okay, there's nothing else. I just,
Thank you. Peter, I have to go in a second. Do you want to have a last?
I would like to summarize a couple of things. In addition to gathering information, I hope you'll take back to the administration a couple of general messages. One, I think you've been hearing for the last 15 minutes or so. There is a fundamental lack of trust in this neighborhood and in surrounding neighborhoods too. Not just in the details of the plan, but in the administration's intentions. And I think that lack of trust is a message that the administration needs to absorb. And then the second general point that I want to emphasize is that what we hear in these presentations is a sense that the administration believes that what we object to are buildings. And you're absolutely right. We have lots of plexes in the near west side. They were grandfathered in from before single family zoning came in the 90s. They're still here. On the whole, they're good neighbors. We don't object to plexes. We don't mind the way they look. They don't pose any kind of a hazard. There are students living in them, but mostly they're grad students in this neighborhood. They don't pose a real problem that bothers us very much. What bothers us is density itself. It's not students, it's people. We just think that this neighborhood has the right density now. It has density that should be an example for the whole city. And the rest of Bloomington should have the same volume of human beings or the same density of human beings as what we have here in these core neighborhoods. And that's what we object to. We see so many other places around the city that could absorb some of this density and leave us to enjoy what is optimal right now. Again, it's not buildings. Plexes are perfectly good housing forms. We just have enough of them. Anybody else have a comment before we let Jackie go? Robert.
Kay and I have lived here for 42 years, okay? We moved here because it was the only place we could afford. I mean, this house that we lived in and have completely transformed it. It was a piece of garbage, And most of the houses in the West Side in the late 70s, early 80s, nobody wanted to live. It was literally the wrong side of the tracks. And there's a lot of people come in here now over the last many, many years and have transformed the houses and made it a great place to live. And it's just pure luck that we get to be close to the downtown area, close to the Beeline, and suddenly it's become a very, very attractive place to live, And I feel that what the Hamilton administration does is trying to do is well, let's cram as many people as we can into the downtown area so that they can walk to downtown, enjoy the Beeline, But as Peter's saying, hey, enough's enough. That's what it boils down to,
Okay. I do have to go. It's after 8 o'clock. Sorry, Cheryl, did you have one thing you wanted to say?
I just want to say it's the same for Vernon and myself. We've lived here for 41 years. We bought our house because it was the only thing we could afford. And we're still here because we love this neighborhood. We do not want to see it ruined.
And I have a brief comment. I have lived here for almost half a century. I have owned 3 houses, 2 of them rentals, here in this neighborhood for almost all of that. And I never had an unsolicited offer to buy any of these houses until the proposal to allow plexes in this neighborhood came out. It was defeated. I didn't get any more proposals until the zoning map came out. And I now am getting more proposals unsolicited to buy the houses because the developers want to cram in more expensive apartments.
As are the rest of us. But I think every one of us has gotten these unsolicited offers. They're, buy your house sight unseen for cash.
I just want to say that I haven't lived here for 40 years. My son is 1. And so I'm very much on the other end of this neighborhood. And, I find this proposal potentially harming the neighborhood that I want, the place where I want to raise my son.
Our daughter just turned 41. I was pregnant when we moved here.
So I just want to let you know that there are a lot of people on the other end of the spectrum too, who are trying to raise families in this neighborhood now, not just ones that did raise their families and continue to live here, but that want to raise their families here now. And this kind of, these proposals seem very anti-family to us.
Okay, I have to go. Thank you all.
Jackie, thank you very much.
Sorry, I do this when I leave a Zoom meeting. I don't. I'm happy to come back. So I know it seems like maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know, but especially once the real proposal comes out, I'm happy to come back and explain it and talk about it. And I know how vehemently you're against it. I'm asking if you just like falling asleep and you're thinking maybe we could, do duplexes or something. Just think about it and let me know. My contact's on the website. No, we really appreciate all of this. We know it's very near and dear to everyone's hearts, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and be engaged in the process. So thank you for having me, letting me come here tonight. Okay, thanks, Peter.
Okay. Any additional business before we wrap?
Thank you. This is John Schroeder. Thank you guys for letting me crash your meeting.
That's okay. The perspective was welcome.
We like you even if you are on the other side of Kirkwood.
No, thank you.
Peter, how do we get a link of the Zoom? There's some of my friends who wanted to make it, but they're working tonight.
Oh, I will do my best to recover the recording of this, and if it comes out as well as I hope, I will make it available in some form.
Okay.
Be determined. It may only be audio. Anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.